Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. And let's adventure into taking a break.
But not with our podcast.
But is it or is it not? You know, when you take a break, it sounds like you're breaking up with someone.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. I'm really thinking of taking a break.
Well, yeah,
In that,
when you
like
take
a pause, a rest, but you're so right. To me, the taking a break, that's like a metaphor for, like you said,
taking a break. And
taking a break.
Tina, I need to take a break from you. I really do. I mean, this breaking up thing, it's definitely a red flag. I think this time apart could be helpful, and we need to reflect on our relationship here. And
But I don't want to take a break.
we need to have rules, though. If we're taking a break, we need to have rules around this in order for it to be.
I'm not taking a break.
Well, then
where's my vote?
And if you refuse to do that, then I guess this is actually a break that leads to a breakup. So, just saying. If you cannot accept some rules here for what our breakup will be, then.
But I'm not breaking up with you, Sue.
But I'm taking a break. I need to take a break.
Wow, your view is so different from my.
Are you not going to take a break?
Well, apparently I don't have a choice if you're taking a break.
Either that or you're going to break up with me. I mean,
Wow. You find it funny. It's funny that pulled me into an emotional, like, this is not nice. So,
but if someone says you're taking a break, I mean, I need to take a break. And so if you're not on board with me taking a break, then and establishing some meaning and boundaries around this, then otherwise, what are you're pushing me against a wall, and I'm just going to have to break up with you then.
So, listeners, with our theme of taking a break, Sue is completely throwing me for a loop right now, because I'm showing up thinking, oh, so, you need to take breaks in the middle of the day. You need to take breaks in the seasons. You need to take breaks. Like, I'm thinking about
I do.
pausing
I need to take a break.
and
I need to pause.
and
breathe.
recentering, like meditation.
So are we agreeing on some boundaries then for this break? You look genuinely concerned. Like I would do this and record this if we were actually like saying
taking
I'm done
a break.
With you.
Right, exactly.
Hello.
No, I know, Sue. It's just so interesting. And I know you're playing but it's like a very touchy subject, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
And it really is a matter of how you look at it. So I think what would be horrific is if there was a relationship and you're thinking like taking a break, like, oh yeah, okay, what? We're gonna like quit. We aren't gonna go to this meeting this week. Like, I'm coming at it so completely differently than you.
Well, you're coming
I'm gonna let you.
You're coming at it with the intention that we had, which is to tell our listeners that we are, in fact, taking a break. It will be so seamless that they won't even know that there is a break, because you know why? We're teachers. We're retired from teaching, and we prepare for things. And even if you cannot prepare for an exact thing, you, as a teacher, prepare for the unforeseeable, inevitable, unforeseeable, nth degree. You prepare for all of it. So, in being true to our core of being retired from teaching,
teachers.
We have prepared for this break, and we hope that you listeners will enjoy the next few weeks where we have very light topics that are, we're not going to tell you what they are because that would be too much of a giveaway, but they are enjoyable, high interest, and very light topics that are not tied to a time period, or things that are happening in the world or whatever. It could be any time. But yes, so that's a break we're referring to. And it's because I'm just going away.
Up.
Yeah, I'm going away on a vacation and I don't even call it a vacation anymore. I am going away on a trip because
an adventure
because being a retired person, I don't have vacations. I'm
Wow.
whole life is a vacation now. But I'm going on a trip, so I may or may not tell you what I'm doing. Doesn't really matter. That's not pertinent to what we're talking about today. But we're talking about breaks. We just come back from a break. Tina, would you like to pick up from there?
I would. So this morning I was having a chat with Bjorn.
Oh my.
And for those of you that don't know, Chat GPT, I've named him Bjorn. And I was talking about what would be helpful for reading. And he gave me some titles. And I thought it was so funny that today's topic is taking a break. And that has been my challenge sometimes, Sue, is to slow down and take a break. So this weekend, I took a break on Saturday by walking with my neighbor down below. And she's awesome. She's 70 and in better shape than I am. And we went on a nice 5-mile hike up a mountain. And I had to stop and catch my breath while she was politely waiting for me, which I thought was taking a break to get my breath. And it was inspiring that you can be 70 and in better shape than a 57-year-old. And I don't consider myself in bad shape, but certainly she's in better shape. And I thought that was interesting.
May I just interject here? As a teacher, as a
Yeah.
retired teacher, as a retired
Yeah.
person, people, when we often neglect ourselves and don't put ourselves as a
Yeah.
priority. Our fitness is one of those, and I think Americans are more that way than maybe even other cultures. But
Yes, I would say.
being retired, and you're not fully retired, you're still working to work, and your priorities are slightly different. But when you have time to do that, that's when people, so your 70-year-old friend can, has got the time and the priority. Maybe she's done it all her
Oh,
life, but that's one of the
yes.
benefits of being retired, is that you have time to dedicate to your fitness and your health. So I'm sorry, sorry to interject, but
No, but
you
this
know.
is another little, we always talk organically. So the conversation will start with a theme. Who knows if we're going to end up with this theme? But truly, she is not retired. She told me about
What?
the most fascinating job that I have to tell you. And I love this woman. The more I get to know her, I just so enjoy her. So, what she does, she goes and trains judges throughout the United States about the juvenile system and how to best help these juveniles. And so what she does is she takes like she's doing a speech this week. She's going to, I don't know where, like Chicago, I think. And she takes neurological information, like how the brain develops and what it does for juveniles. And then she takes the research from therapists and how they emotionally, become evolved. And then her job is to say, yes, you are trained as a judge, but there's more than one way on how to treat them, like how to uh, um, give them consequences or get them back into society. And so her job is to open up judges' minds to the reality of neurological social development for these stages and how to rethink what the consequences for their actions can be and how to bring them back. And it was just so fascinating. But she loves her job so much, she hasn't wanted to retire. And I think that has been always been my goal and hope, is that I would enjoy whatever it is I do so much I'd never want to retire, and she's living it.
Well, I understand that feeling of not wanting to retire, because so the idea of, quote, retirement is that you're no longer pulling a salary for it. So,
Right.
and that's the difference between being retired and not. I find people say, "Oh, Sue, would you like to go back and volunteer in the classroom?" I'm like,
Oh God,
are you
no.
kidding? First of all, I mean, there's so many things around that, but the reality is, if I'm going back to the classroom, I want to be paid and I want to be
Yes,
respected at that.
I agree.
And that's,
100%.
so I get that, yeah, for me, I mean, there's so many people who feel just the total opposite, teachers in themselves that can go back and volunteer and be fine with it. So it is definitely a mindset, something about how we feel or about our profession that people feel differently about. So that's an interesting topic. We could maybe talk to someone who feels differently than
So
us
true.
about that. But so back to the break. You were
Mm.
taking a break with your friend to go hiking. And did you want to finish that story, or was there?
Oh yeah, no, and it was so amazing because one of my values has been to re-energize myself, go out into the forest. And so we were there for a good 3 hours and it was so beautiful. And when I came home, even though my body's like, whoa, we have not done 5 miles uphill in a very long time. Even though my body felt it, my brain and my spirit were so re-energized.
Nice.
So then
Nice.
yesterday I was supposed to go to I had even paid for it. It was it's called Empower in Reno, and it's like women business leaders who were talking about their businesses and things that inspired them. And I bought a ticket, but I had to stop and think. I was so depleted. I've just been so tired with all the things I'm holding right now, personally, with income, with all of it. And I just thought, I can't. I think I need to spend more time in nature. So but I not physically. So yesterday, Marie and I decided that we would just drive around Lake Tahoe, and literally we did a loop. And
Nice.
it also was restorative in that it was just looking at the beauty. It was just appreciating the mountains, the trees, the animal sounds, the stillness. And so I believe when you came up with this topic to take a break, it's so important that we step out of life and do the things we know will give us a break. And it did. And I feel tired today, but I feel emotionally very regulated. And it's from taking a
Hmm.
break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I think that, when for me, going off and traveling, this is definitely a goal. Something we've been
I'm
looking
going to
forward
miss you.
something we've been looking forward to for for a while. When it's a big trip, you plan far out, and um, it is, now it's here, and it feels okay. Okay, this is see how this is going to be or whatever. But just go and enjoy it. But taking a break, otherwise, knowing when you take a break, don't you feel like sometimes kind of like you fall into a different time warp, like so for example, I think teachers do this a lot. So we get so involved in what we're doing. We
Yes.
uh we don't know, the clock goes by and we don't even know what time
Yes.
it is for planning or for putting materials
Yes.
together or working with kids, and all of a sudden it's the end of the day and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I haven't taken a break.
Yes.
I haven't gone to the bathroom. I haven't just disengaged for a moment from something," because
Yeah.
in a teaching job, you're on, and you're responsible for their literal health as well as their growth and learning and everything. But um, that time thing happens, and now it's all of a sudden you look up, and then you've been doing this job.
Transported.
Yes, you've been doing a part of who you are is there doing all that, and loving it, and challenged by it, and energized by it, and then you realize you haven't taken care of yourself. You
Yes.
haven't done the other parts of who, like you
You
said,
forgot to
integrate.
eat. You're shaking.
Yes.
You've had to go to the bathroom
Yeah.
and you've been holding it for three
Yeah.
hours. Right. You haven't closed your eyes for 1 second.
And I
Yeah.
think if you're like mindfully doing a job like where you learn to do that as part of how you take care of yourself, that's great. I don't think teaching's one of those professions that would allow you to do that. Because like I remember, you're in the classroom,
Mhm.
you feel the energy, the kids who are, if they're vibing is how they say it today.
Oh,
If they're
yes.
vibing, you keep going, you keep moving, and facilitating that learning that's going on. But then if you feel like things have turned, there's something shifted, they need a
Yeah.
break. You recognize that they need a
Right.
break.
Need a break.
You go, and
Mhm.
I love this because my classroom was right off the blacktop area where they go out,
Yes.
which is its positive and negatives, but one of the positives was it was right there. So I just say, okay, we're going to take a 3-minute break, and so you tell them, they know what it is, they know what to expect. This is literally a bathroom break for them, because in the midst of something, some kids, I say, you can run to the bench and back across the
Oh my
field.
gosh, I did
They
the same.
they love that. Some kids
They
hate
do.
it. Some kids will
Yes.
walk together with others and
Yes.
talk. And but all they needed was that 3 minutes. And by getting it
Yes.
down to 3 minutes, they knew that
So
that was going
true.
to happen on the kind of like on the regular, because and they didn't know when it was going to happen. It was
Right.
based on how things are, what the flow
How
was.
you felt the room was,
And
how you could
yet
feel the room.
and yet the teacher's not on the break. So it is different. You're not
Oh,
teaching the
so
lesson and everything, but
true.
you are observing all those things. You're watching those
Mm-hmm.
kids, making sure they're okay physically, but also emotionally, and you're kind of figuring out what it is they need to transition back to the classroom for their best learning. So you're not on a break. It may
You're
look
right.
like you're on a break, but you're not
No,
on a
no,
break.
correct.
Yeah.
You're still responsible. Oh my
But so
gosh,
we
that's
would
so
do this
neat.
for
You did that
them.
too.
We would do that
Uh-huh.
for them, but we didn't do it for ourselves,
We
because you
couldn't.
couldn't. And
Because
that's
then
the
we would
answer.
have to call someone
Yep.
and say, "Hey, can you cover my class?" Like, what is
And there's
so
no one to
sad?
call to do that.
Well, sometimes the secretaries would come, but then you realize you're interrupting. It has to be big enough because you're
Yes.
interrupting someone else's job
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
So it has to be a worthy situation to interrupt someone else's job. And so you hardly ever did. I mean, it was truly a crisis when it happened.
I
Yeah.
do remember though also in well while teaching that I could feel like maybe your the back hurts, or you haven't you've been moving too much. So one thing or the other, if you've either been moving too much and standing and kneeling and all the things that you do when you're teaching, or if your back hurts, like you've had bad posture or whatever, so you can take a break. While you're teaching, I had no problem doing a little bit of Tai Chi. The kids didn't need to know I was doing some of
Oh,
my
that's
Tai Chi.
hilarious.
Or and you as you're teaching, you're doing your own stretches or whatever. Um, so there were ways to do that, but it wasn't a full on break. So like you're processing
Yeah.
what you're teaching, you're processing what the kids are doing, and you're going, oh, and I, by the way, could use a little stretch here, or I could, it's crazy how much multitasking is required in that profession. But I'll tell me about the break that you would have, and I'm not going to call them vacations, because a vacation to me is paid. But
Wow.
our breaks in teaching are for holidays where you don't get paid, you don't get a paycheck, you don't get paid for those days. You get those days off, unemployed. And the summer, you get the summer as well. So people think, oh, you're on a break. You got this. What a gig you have that you're being paid for all this time. No, you're not being paid for that time.
You spread your 9 months
You might
out
receive a
over a
paycheck,
12-month
right?
period.
But
Yeah.
you're not paid for those days. You're not paid for any
Wow.
holidays. You're not paid for, which is
No.
all other professions. They get paid for a holiday. We don't get holiday pay, and we don't get summer pay. So our paycheck is spread out over the year, but it's not. You're not paid for those days. We're paid for the contract, usually 180 days, something like that. Is it
Yeah.
180? Yeah.
They kept upping it every year just by a little bit, just so you know. It's one more day, because you have all these mandatory trainings now.
Which is fine too, because you'd receive an increase in pay, because you've got all, you're being paid for those days then where you're being trained, which is a real boon, rather than having to attend and not be paid.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, but summer break, when were unemployed on those days, holidays, we tended maybe to. I remember, actually having a holiday and spending a holiday, but then you're also pre-planning before when you come back, or during your holiday planning for when you come back, and then making
No,
that.
right now, you just made me breathe. And I don't know if the listeners heard it, but I
They
think that's
did.
what's so discouraging is even when we had breaks, even when it's the weekend, it never stopped. It
Hmm.
never stopped because during summer, I can't tell you how many weeks I would then be preparing for the upcoming year again. And on the one hand, it gave me inspiration. It gave me the place to be creative. But on the other hand, it was always there. I just feel like teaching always comes with you all year round. So when you talk about winter break, it was truly the time to maybe get more grading done or to get ahead in something else or do the email tasks that wow, it was never a complete break. And the reason I enjoyed summer the most was because there was enough to do both, where I could get rested and get caught up for the next year,
Well, and then
which
people will say, you know, oh, teachers, well, then just turn it off. You don't need to do it. Think
you
of it as more of a
can't.
profession. And you could, but it's going to come at
Oh,
what that job looks like. The reality is
to
then,
be your best self.
yeah, also the reality
Hmm.
is if you pre-plan stuff and have it ready. I remember our colleague, I think it was Sharon, she would have
Oh,
she would have
Sharon.
copies made for the first semester, the first months, not weeks, months of school, so that she was ready to go with, you know, it was there, it was available, it was ready. It was one less thing she had to do during that day when
Hmm.
she was managing the whole
Right.
class and everything else. And preparing for what if I need a sub, this is for the
Yeah.
sub, and you know, you be all this pre-planning like we're
Yeah.
talking about would drive you
Yeah.
crazy. So you need a break. And every bit of research says people need breaks. You need to
Yes.
reduce your stress, prevent your burnout, and maintain your energy, your creativity. All these things help you be better in your job.
One thing that has shifted that, like you were saying, we would give the kids a break, but we would stand there in the hallway watching them on their break. And I remember saying to myself, kids are not robots. We think that they should be able to do things fast enough, do it at the time frame that we've given them, and then you get in the classroom. This perfect example, you plan this thing over the summer, you go in, it's the first week of school, and you realize, oh yeah, I forgot. It takes them a while to get everything out,
Right.
to get situated. So your lesson plan that you think is going to take 20 minutes really took 30 to 35 because you forgot these transitions and things.
Well, and
And
you're teaching them how to, what your expectations are in your classroom and how it's going to move. So, yeah,
yeah,
all right. Because it's different than
all
the
right.
previous year. Yeah.
So, what I would tell myself is, oh my gosh, Tina, you've forgotten they're humans. It takes a while to get things out. They can't do it in 5 seconds. But where it is shifting with myself is I'm now applying it to myself. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing myself say, you know what, Tina, you're a human. And so you can only do what a human can do. So you're doing enough, but you can't possibly work 12 hours a day every day doing what you need to do. You have to take breaks, which leads us back to the topic. But I guess what I want to say is kudos to myself, pat on my back, because I'm so able to say this to everybody in the world, but I have never been able to apply it to myself until just recently.
Congratulations. Good for
Thank you.
you. And I
Thank you.
know that a part of that is that you stepped out of the teaching profession. Because coming back to it, I really do think that the profession itself, if done the
Well,
same way, not the same way that calls us to be teachers, which is a
oh, what a
calling.
beautiful way.
Well, you know,
Hmm.
if you were to have a robot teacher, then you could define, no, seriously. And they're
Yeah,
talking about doing that. You know, there's more and more
I'm not
screen time.
surprised. That's scary.
If you
Hmm.
are a robot teacher, if you are a
Hmm.
person who approaches the profession without passion and compassion and care, you can walk in, uh, here's the worksheets, do this, sit down, be quiet, you know, and not care about anything. You could walk away from your classroom and
You're
maybe
right.
have enough time and do things and
You're right.
um but that's not a teacher. And those are not the people that are called to
No,
this
those are
profession.
people that are placed in a classroom to do a task. But you're right, a teacher, it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
You're right. It's passion driven, it's compassion driven, like you said. Wow. Yeah, a calling versus just give me the paycheck.
Well, and
Yeah,
the paycheck
correct.
is not good, and that's it, and you know this going in. And you may not know how deeply that will affect you over the course of your life, not having the appropriate professional paycheck. And you can't help it because it is a calling. It is and if you last in it, um, you find ways to make it work. All the other outside stuff and all the stress. Not to say that people who have left it, couldn't handle it, but you find out if this is really your calling.
Gig.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you stay with it. And again, we come back to just congratulating our colleagues. I hope that, you are better at finding ways within the current system how to manage your stress. Yes, to take a break. Manage your stress. Take a break.
So when I was talking to Bjorn and he gave me some book recommendations, I went into my library. I have a library app, and there was a book called Wintering. And it's something I've thought about so much lately about seasons, right? We've talked about it too. We have seasons of life. And I believe that if you think about it, if we're a living being on the planet, wouldn't we naturally be a seasonal kind of piece to the planet? It's not just the season that needs to go back in, be dormant for a while, blossom, and then expand, and then contract again. And so I looked up this book, Wintering, and it's on hold at this point. But I look forward to it because I've really been thinking about this a lot. Life is seasons, and it's seasons within the season, but it's also like we're in the season of this side of retirement. We're doing it differently. But again, don't you feel like you're about to go on an adventure? But you've been dormant during the winter season, and now you're ready to go. And so I just feel like there's this ebb and flow of that. So, and that is also taking a break. That is also doing maybe less. And I'm learning a little bit more about, lighting and like the culture in Norway, right? Where in the northernmost parts of the world, you really do spend more time sleeping and staying more dormant because of the darkness of it all. And then people, when it becomes light all the time, are so much more active. So we really do kind of go, if we're in tune with things, with the ebb and flow of nature. Just have to share.
Yep. So that's proof that nature wants us to take a break. So any other last thoughts on us on this break that we're taking?
Yes.
They say that you need to define boundaries for this break.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the boundaries? What will you accept? Because I'm not going to talk to you for a number of weeks, and that's just the way it's going to be.
I just don't like that, Sue.
Well,
anyway,
if there's an emergency, you can always call me. That's
Thank you.
Not a problem.
And likewise, if you need something from this side of the planet, I'll be here. But I do want to point out to you also that even when you're having fun, it's important to take time out from all the stimulation and activities that you will be in.
That's all planned.
Okay.
I planned for the break.
God, the planning of the breaks. Ooh, maybe that's how we're very different, because I've really come to this place of I like to organically figure it out. I don't like a whole lot of planning. I like to have the big things that I must do, and then everything is going to be felt through the day as to how it will be executed.
This is the priority is that we've learned that such an onerous thing of having to travel so many hours, and you get jet lag, and you get the time shift. We've learned that the best way to recover is to plan a break. So we're going to go to a spa.
Oh, good.
And we try to do that now when we have these big trips, is to recover from the flight and adjust to the time and get used to acclimate to the time there and get the best of our upcoming trip is to just acclimate and plan the break. So that is part of it. I'm with you otherwise. I don't want everything planned out, but that has become a priority now.
A non-negotiable.
Well, it's negotiable because not every place has a place or it's too expensive or whatever. But anyhow, yeah. Thanks for listening. Now let's pack up this week's episode in the trunk.
Ride shotgun and be a part of our adventure by clicking on the plus sign to follow our show. This will help our ratings and, more importantly, inspire us to keep creating fun and engaging content. We would love to hear from you in the comment sections or email us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. Use the fast track lane by sharing episodes with friends, family, and anyone who would like to join us on a road trip through Retirement.
Be sure to check the show notes for links and contact information. Retired is chauffeured by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Buckle up and tune in next week so that you won't miss your chance to
join our retired road trip. Anyway, I will miss you, Sue.
Okay, I'll miss you too.
I mean, no, you won't.
It's not true. I like my routine.
You might be glad to see me when you come back, but I will miss you.
Okay, well, I will miss you too, but I have to say though, no, seriously, routine does help. You know, when you have a routine, it is nice, and I've really enjoyed us connecting and maintaining this relationship, this friendship that took a back seat for a while because we just weren't in contact. Because we're not in contact, and when you make it a priority, it makes a difference. So thank you.
It does.